Hey guys, Thomas Cecilia Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Halloween Kills. If you end up enjoying this review, then please feel free to do all the things like liking, commenting, and subscribing. Also consider joining my Patreon page, there'll be the second link in the description, and I'll remind you of the shilling I just did at the end of the review. With that out of the way, let's get into Halloween Kills. So this is the second Halloween within the remake franchise of Halloween, that being Halloween Kills. And if I can recall, it's been a while, or from what I can remember, I did not really like the previous installment of this remake. I remember having mixed feelings about the previous one. You know, not the original one, but the one where they go more into his backstory. Had more mixed, and I think that's separate from this. If I'm correct, I think it is. Anyway, that being said, this is the second one after whatever the previous one was called, so my memory is already shoddy on this. And it's always a bit, you know, with the remakes and reboots and all that franchises being killed. I'm not too surprised at the results of this movie. And the saddest part, I think, for this review is that the beginning of it is actually, it seems like it's going to be handled fairly competently, meaning it's actually going to be something good. But then the rest of the movie happens, and then we have to talk. So, as the movie is approaching our start, we see a bit of a preamble of whatever was happening from the first one, and we see someone calling for help, and we see a young man whose name I wrote later on. I called him Oscar, but I think that was the father's name. I don't remember. I know I wrote the young man's name later on, but nevertheless, we see him check on the person he's dying or dead, so he's like freaking out. And we cut to a flashback of 1987, and I'm not sure if it's reused footage or new footage, but point being is that, as I'm stating, this beginning seems to be setting up like, oh, this is like, you know, if you haven't been keeping up with Halloween, this has been the sort of uptick in, you know, what's been going on. And I do appreciate that to a degree. So yeah, we see that one of the police officers, Hawkins, is called over. And we very briefly cut to a young Lonnie kid being bullied. But then, you know, when he runs away, he sees Michael Myers very briefly, or as I'll call him, briefly, just Mike. So we cut over to more killings of the past, as, you know, we're sort of catching up or dipping further back. I forget which one it was, but point being that he is on the attack once more, and Hawkins, this cop guy, kills his partner trying to get to Mike. Then we cut to the more recently up-to-date in terms of when this movie takes place, which is 2018, which is probably when this is when, I don't know if that was when it was initially supposed to come out, you know, before COVID and stuff, but point being, a man stands up, and he tells the story of Michael Myers, This individual's name is Tommy. He was in the previous movie, I think, or he was a character in previous installments. Even still, uh, so he was a part of several of the attacks, or one of them, or something along those lines. And he's grown quite tired of the attacks. Meanwhile, we cut to Laurie being moved along with some other individuals. Laurie, once again played by shoot, her name just escaped me. I just had it, but nonetheless, so we cut to the present, as I mentioned, and these firefighters see that Michael Myers is escape or getting out of the firehouse after he killed some of the people inside, and they get ready thinking that they can attack him as some sort of group, but they do not succeed. They get cut down. And, in terms of being prepped, I suppose they had axes and fire hoses, which, they probably, it feels better that they at least tried to do it together somewhat, other than what other people try to do later on in this movie. And it does establish that, again, Mike, is able to survive quite the ordeal of being, in a burning house and whatnot. So, again, so far, the start of this movie is pretty sufficient at setting things up. However, we cut to an older couple. I believe this was one of the couples in the previous movies, and he proceeds to just start attacking. So, we cut back to the bar, where things begin, or where things are going to start getting frustrating. We see the young man call the police from the bar, and the police arrive at the fire attack, where, the house where the fire was. They see all the bodies and whatnot. And we see two individuals leave the bar, a nurse and a other guy. And they see that one of their car goes on, and so they suspect that Michael Myers is in their car. So they lead Tommy outside with his bat, of weapon of choice, which is where things start to get a little stupid. And he begins leading people off, but Mike, who they assume is Mike, drives off. The car crashes. Thus we see a cut to Big John and Little John, and Big John sees that this girl is being attacked, but it ends up being a prank by these younger kids who have no idea what's going on, or they aren't as up to snuff with the Mike lore, so they're all having fun out there. But the adults, these two individuals, the gay couple, as I'll just refer to them as, puts an end to them, or frightens them, I should say. Anyway, Ellison, or Karen, I forget which one is which, the daughter and mother, I get confused in my notes a little bit here, but she is approached by a cop, and the other one is approached by this other woman about what Mike had been doing and their story. So the two argue about what they should do, if they should go after him or if they should stay put where they are. As it would turn out, apparently doing either of those things ended up being really stupid, but we'll get to that. So, as that's going down, the people of the town, led by once more Tommy, are getting ready to hunt down Michael Myers. Now, they have had some time since the car incident, and they could have picked up more weapons if they're, assuming within this small town, there's like a gun store or something. They might have actually, tried to gear up or something. But nope, they leave what they have, which isn't a lot. Um, in fact, I believe only one person picks up a shotgun and doesn't really. It ends up being really not that very effective in the way that individual uses it. So shame. Anyway, so these four individuals, the the nurse and the doc, and as well as Lindsay and this other woman, are on the prowl. And one of them sees the kids like hanging out. So she goes out there to stop them or make them leave. And while she's doing that, the other three get attacked by Mike. They try to attack him with what they got, but Mary, which is the other woman I forgot the name of, is killed first. Then the Black Doctor killed next. He is stabbed, and he kicks the door on an incoming nurse who had a weapon, a gun, and she did the stupid thing when people do with guns in movies apparently all the time, is move closer to the hostile instead of moving further away or getting a more clear shot but keeping your distance. Which either of those two things would have been more, better, but, stupidity is the name of the game now. So her own weapon is used against her, and she's also killed. So Lindsay being the only one left, Mike starts to move on. Meanwhile, we cut to the young man at the beginning, and he meets up with his dad. And they meet up eventually with Lindsay out there in the field. All the while, Lori calls out Frank the cop as he's being brought in. Frank being another individual who tried to stop Mike in the previous installment and had failed. We had seen that one. I believe that was the end of the previous one. Excuse me. So, Tommy now arrives at the hospital, and there is a larger scale of people here, and he's starting to rile them up, saying that they are going to kill him tonight, or kill the darkness tonight, or whatever phrase they use, and they are getting riled up, which means they get more stupid, which to a degree I think could have worked. And actually, almost simultaneously, it's weird, it works and it doesn't work for a degree of reasons, but we'll focus in on, for the individuals there it doesn't work, but for the other individual it does a surprising amount of actual something to the movie that I think people need to pay attention to when writing horror movies. So yeah, we're gonna get to that. Anyway, Lori's trying to get herself back up, but she's not doing so hot. Meanwhile, we cut back to the gay couple, and they hear a knock at the door. And they check it out, and they're looking around. And, as that's going on, because it's cutting back and forth between these, I believe, as the hospital people are getting more riled up, they know one crazed convict, or whatever it was, escapee, I'll call him, is running around the hospital. And for whatever reason, Tommy included, thinks this to be Michael Myers. Now, I am sure that Tommy saw Michael Myers at some point, if, he was the one telling all the stories, getting people all hyped up. So wouldn't Tommy know that Michael Myers is a behemothly tall man, not like the short, stubby man that we see sort of wiggling around the hospital? And he gets the people to believe that it's Michael Myers at first. And you know what? I'm gonna say it. I actually feel bad. Not for any of those other people in the hospital, but for the escaped convict. And that's kind of pathetic if you really think about it. I actually felt bad for this escaped convict, and he doesn't have any significant dialogue by any degree. And what they do to this man, they chase him up, through the hospital, and they corner him up way up high, and he climbs out the window, and as they're breaking through the glass and getting prepped to, attack him, assumably, he proceeds to jump off and kill himself. And you know what? I feel bad for this man. And this is the thing, is even though he was an escaped convict, and even though he barely had any dialogue, I felt for him. I felt scared for him. And I said this in other movie reviews, in particular in horror movies. How you write a good horror movie is you write good characters. Like any other genre. But when you do it in horror, in particular, you can feel fear for a character, even if something isn't, say, spooky or, the jump scares might get you here and there. But after the first time, it's like, you kind of get used to it, and you kind of expect it. But when you have good characters, there's something very special that happens, and it's something that The Walking Dead I felt did either really well at the beginning, and sort of more and more people sort of fell off of The Walking Dead. But The Walking Dead created something where you're following people you genuinely cared about, and when these people died, you actually felt for them, and when that person was in a great deal of stress, or when they were being attacked by the undead, you actually were like, no, you were rooting for that character to survive. You were at the edge of your seat. You were scared for the character. And one character, I would say, it will always probably be with me until the day I die. The most impactful death, I think, to this day on The Walking Dead is, spoiler alert, Glenn's death. Glenn was, a front runner. He was there at the very beginning. He did so much. He was such a good character. And when he was taken out, it made not only his death one of the most meaningful deaths in horror history, but it made the person who killed him one of the worst villains in history. And the fact that they're trying to make him an anti-hero or whatever now is whatever, but point being is that death, and it's not a pretty death, it's a gruesome death, will be significant. And I could tell that it's significant because something else has already tried to copy it. The Last of Us 2 tried to copy it, but did not understand how everything needed to add it up. That's what The Last of Us 2 did not understand. It did not understand how to write its characters in such a way that you would be like, no, that character did die, and fuck, I really did feel bad for them, on top of, everything else. And that's what The Walking Dead felt like when I remember it. And so when this guy is trapped, and again, he barely has any rooms, even though he's an escaped convict, I feel bad because, technically speaking, I don't know exactly what this individual did, because the movie doesn't tell us what he did, so that's fucking incredible. since it doesn't tell us, you can just be like, well, this is what these idiots did, and you felt bad for him. Or at least I did. Because, I'm a human being, and that when you see someone in a situation where it's tense or it's something of that nature, you tend to be like, oh man, that guy died? Fuck. So it kind of has that vibe. And it's a shame that it had to be that individual and that every other character surrounding that character is utterly stupid. And you want those people to die. And that's not good horror writing. It's not. Rooting for your villain. And I used to think that it was good, but that was when I was stupid. Now I know it's terrible and it's bad. It's bad writing. It is what it is. On an objective scale. Because you have characters, actual characters like Ellen Ripley, where you're rooting for them and you fear for their safety. And when you fear for their safety, it pulls you in and it makes you grip on and it makes you, again, it gives you that ability to feel fear for the character. And that's something that is severely lacking in current horror movies to a large degree. And I wanted to make sure I pulled out a few examples just to show you, if you're watching this to this point, that, if you can make your characters memorable, if you can make them impactful, if you can make them, smart, intelligent, and still get killed off, that is how you write true horror. If you're going for a majority people dying regardless of, how you've written them. So there you go. The most frustrating scene, and it does the right thing for all the wrong reasons. So anyways, so they continue their search as we cut back to the gay couple, and they end up getting killed. Because Mike was actually there the whole time, instead of being... So Mike was never at the hospital, if that wasn't made very clear. Even though people assumed that he was, for whatever reason. So we see people finally trying to, or at least one of the daughters trying to calm the situation down, but it's not doing any good as the hysteria of, or the craziness of the people is spreading, and the cops are even, not really doing that effective of a job of doing anything. So, yeah. So you see people moving along, and so we have our crew, as we cut back to this other crew. The other, I believe it's the mother character, is with this father character, and they're moving in. Meanwhile, Lindsay joins Tommy in talking about what his situation was and him realizing that he did something utterly stupid. Meanwhile, the starter dad's character moves into the house, and he moves in alone like a fucking idiot, so here we go again. And once a shot is fired, the other two then decide to move in. And when even those two move in, they split up, because fuck, people can't be intelligent in horror movies, for fuck's sakes. And Cameron gets attacked and fucking brutalized, and you know what? Fuck it. Fuck him. Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares that Cameron died? What was his character anyway? See? Now I'm saying the actual reverse now. Who the actual fuck cares? Because who the fuck was Cameron anyway? I wrote his name down, but I don't know anything about his character. I don't know what he was supposed to be like. Did he have any hobbies? Did he like the person he was traveling with outside of his dad? like, who the fuck cares who this individual was if you didn't write anything for the character, being an actual character? So he gets fucked up and then killed, and whatever. Um, so Lindsay attacks, comes in, somehow gets there just in time to save her daughter with a pitchfork. She taunts Mike by taking off his mask and making him run outside. And somehow she set this up. It doesn't show us this, and it doesn't. The last thing we see of her doesn't make sense with how this ends up being a thing. But they end up surrounding Mike with several people there with bats and other weapons, and I think one person there has a handgun, and they don't shoot him in the head. The thing that could potentially get closer to ending this at a potential. Anyways, they proceed to attack. And as we see people attack, eventually through the other two, Tommy's and Lori's monologue sharing, we see Mike get up eventually and go back on a killing spree of the people that he, the people who brought a bunch of simple weapons, except the one person who brought a handgun but didn't get a headshot. And the funniest thing is that they had him downed. They actually downed Michael Myers, and they just stop. For whatever fucking reason, they just stop. They could have actually ended it. That's the funniest thing, is that they could have ended it if they cut off his head. Like, I'm pretty sure that would kill any person, but, there's a supernatural thing going on here, so I don't know if that would end it, but, like, for fuck's sake, you could have at least tried to do that, but nope, they don't even attempt, they don't even bother, they just allow him to get back up and start killing people, and then he gets to kill Tommy, and you know what? Who the fuck actually cares? Because Tommy had a fucking baseball bat. What the fuck was he thinking? So yeah, the mom heads up after the fact and then is proceeded to be killed by the Mike who appears up behind her. And that is how this movie ends, with apparently one more Halloween in the makes. And I honestly already don't care. Because they can't do anything with this third installment. They can't make it good. Because it's been proven that they couldn't do it the first time. And it's been proven that they can't do it the second time. So there's no possible thing that they can do to make the third one fit. There's no possible writing that they could probably even attempt to do that's gonna fix this. You can't fix this now. You fucked it up. And you didn't have to fuck it up. This was actually pretty close, or semi-close to being competent, and then they fucking dropped the ball. How sad and pathetic that that's where we are. Is that you were starting off pretty strong, and I was like, okay. I was on board. I was actually on board, and then the rest of the movie happened, and I was like, well, here we go again. Here we are again. And in terms of a score, I'd probably give it like a 3 or 4 out of 10. That's not very impressive. There's too many mistakes. There's too many errors. There's too much stupidity to, just let loose here. And, again, I give some credit here, which is probably why I would stick it to a 4. Again, at the beginning section was probably where a lot of that would be geared towards that 4. But there's just too many mistakes. There's too much bad here to give it anything higher. So that is my review of Halloween Kills, and if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.